Well, hopefully we'll give you a few hints on it, Dominic. I mean, there's a fair few meetings beforehand that have cut some of the issues, but we'll have a look at a couple, and we'll have a look at one or two that might assist you in at least thinking about how you approach some of your work, some of the new technologies. I'm going to talk a little bit about AI today and where that's going in terms of our work.
Yeah,
And
I haven't.
don't forget, Dominic. We record. Well, we're supposed to record all the sessions, but most of them, and they're available online, either on my website or Agriculture Australia.
Yeah, no, that's not a problem.
Okay, so we've got some stuff happening. Mark, we're on time. You want to start?
Yeah, I can start doing some bits and pieces. I'm just going to put a background filter on if I can, and it should just stay blur. So there we are. Yeah, I just want to blur. It stopped. Yeah, it's done now. Yeah, there we are. Okay, a little bit better. So yeah, today I thought, amongst other things, we'd talk about the role of AI in particular in terms of report writing. And again, I'm going to come at it on the perspective that most arborists aren't inherently good or natural writers. I think that would be a fair comment. For a lot of us, the process of writing is a hard task. It's not an easy task. And so you could do AI and approach AI in very dubious ways. Getting AI to write a report or an assignment for you. And my view is, if you do that and you get caught, you deserve to be hung and quartered, and you probably will be. So that's not the way I suggest that you use AI. I think you use AI to inform you and to assist you. So just before we started, I went to the standard freebie online, and I'll share my screen if I can. Share. Chat GPT, there we are. So first thing I did is I asked whether it could do some research work for me, find 10 peer-reviewed papers on the risk associated with tree failures in urban trees. And as you can expect, Chat GPT says essentially, use Google Scholar, you lazy rat bag. Don't ask me to do it for you. So it suggests Google Scholar, PubMed, ScienceDirect. I'll suggest you go to Google Scholar first of all, and where it refers you to ScienceDirect or PubMed, that's great. And then go have a look from there. List your paper back up and search for it. JSTOR is another one. Springer links are usually paid, and I would suggest you try and avoid paying. So when searching, use a combination of specific keywords. It goes through and explains how, and we've done our whole war on doing exactly that. Now, the next thing that you've got to tell is say, okay, well, write me a 1,500-word paper on the topic risk associated with accidental failures of trees. As if you're a university student, and a diploma student, that's what you are. You're essentially equivalent to a first-year university student. So nice, easy topic. And so ChatGPT went to work on it and did a reasonably good job. Comes up with an abstract, an introduction, talks about ecological factors that can contribute to tree failure, structural weaknesses, branch architecture, trunk defects, age and species characteristics, then some stuff on management. Is this all, you guys can all see this without any problems?
Yeah.
Yep, good.
Yeah.
Species selection, I'll try and figure out how to download it. Having said all to do all this, I'm not sure how that's done. So I'll ask the team in the morning. Then some stuff on urban design, selecting the right spaces, giving appropriate spaces are important. It cites a couple of case studies, the Great Storm of 1987 in the UK and Melbourne Urban's for our strategy, both of which are great examples to look at. And then it talks about how to mitigate those things, and it really does a good job of that. Preventative measures, community engagement, technology and monitoring, and then a nice short conclusion. So it wasn't really detailed from my side. I wanted some more information, so I simply have to tell the AI what I want with some more detail. So I said, okay, write instead a 2,500 word paper on the topic, exactly the same, cut and pasted it, as if you're a university professor. So I've 1,000 words extra, and I've given it a different reference point. I've said, don't write this as a student, write this as a professor. And so here's the same thing with a little bit more information, a little bit more detail now, a little bit more on ecological factors, a little bit more on root architecture, stresses, environmental stresses, each case, so a little bit more. But this still, if this was a paper that you're writing or a report that you're writing, it's missing some things. What's it missing? Really obviously. Anything?
Facts?
Facts, yeah, well, there's lots of facts there. Branches with poor attachments, including bark or improper angles, are prone to failure. It's nothing about how much, but we'd agree that they are or maybe more prone to failure. I think, are prone to failure is probably a slight imprecision, but that's okay.
What about the specifics of the individual tree that you're talking about?
Well, yeah, this is a very generalist paper that is we've asked, so it's a tree failures in general. What it's missing is references.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, our management, nice and there. Same, a couple of things, a little bit more detail on each. And then I thought, no, I want references. So I said, again, write your 2,500 word paper on the same topic as if you're a professor and include references and citations. Now, it didn't quite get there because it used more than 2,500 words. And so it got to the end, but you can see here now, I've got references. And so if you were to do an assignment like this, you don't have to read and copy all the top stuff. But this bit at the bottom called references, it's done a whole pile of the research for you. Is that not a clever way of getting around some of the research stuff?
Interesting.
Yeah. And so we could go back to our original question. We could go back here. So we're going to try and give it a bit more specificity now. And we could say same thing. And now we can use the layout to give us some ideas. So again, what you should use ChatGPT for is doing work and inspiration, not for writing your material. At this stage, ChatGPT is equivalent IQ of about 135 in this version, 130, 135, but it still makes errors. It still gets things wrong. This is a tool to help you do things, not to actually do the thing. So what could we ask here for? We could narrow down our scope. We could increase our number of words. So let's do 5,000 words. In particular, consider branch failure. It doesn't need it grammatically correct, but that's fine. We'll do it for it anyhow. And off we'll go. And ChatGPT will go ahead. It's changed the heading, so it's got a particular focus on branch failure. It's now giving us all our references as well. It was looking at, the same things. Not a bad little way of getting yourself research done without having to necessarily have all the details. And you'll see here it's looked at lots of interesting things here that weren't in the early one, like early intervention and pruning, community education and awareness. So there's more detail here than there was in the previous paper. And the paper's less than 5,000 words long. I can tell that just by looking at it. So thoughts on that, guys?
I've got a question. Just would it be considered cheating to use what we're doing here as not so much a starter point, as in we use the essay and modify it to suit ourselves, but using ChatGPT to write essays, I guess, on particular topics like we just did, and then use any relevant points it makes that we like and use those ideas in our own?
No, that's good research does that. You're looking at something, you think, oh, that makes sense, I'm going to use that point, but express it in my own language. The rule that I held as a teacher when I was teaching was no more than 5 consecutive words should ever be used from anything without citation. And so if you're just using the concepts of it, and I mean, wow, these are some good things to look at. Management practices, inspections, pruning techniques, risk assessment, and monitoring. Well, that's essentially a template. Now, you shouldn't be writing proper pruning techniques play a vital role, or a vital role. Now we've changed it there in risk reduction. That's plagiarism still. What isn't plagiarism is when you turn around and somehow or other put that in your own thing. So research has shown that appropriate pruning techniques can minimize the risk of failure, whilst inappropriate techniques, such as lines tailing, can increase the probability of failure. Now, we've got the concept there, but we've changed the wording completely. Does that help in terms of how to use something like this? So there's nothing wrong with putting pruning techniques down and a layout like that. I think the layout's great. And it will help direct your flow of your report. How about we look at a real life solution or a real life problem? What's a tree issue that we might have to sort out?
I had an interesting one last year. I was on a construction site supervising some root pruning of some London plane trees, Platnus acerifolia, I think. I might be wrong there.
Hybrid or whatever. Yep.
That's it. We were having to cut and excavate some roots to find the sewer and stormwater tie-in, and the roots were all over the manhole access, and then it turned out after inspection they were 200 meters down along the pipes.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. Right. Write a paper about route cutting of London planes as if you were a consulting arborist. What else do we want to do? Include citations, yeah?
Yes.
And we don't want to just about root cutting, about managing.
Could we we might want to add this on later, but could we ask ChatGPT to include the limitations of installed by regulations, like for example, main services override tree protection here in ACT?
Let's do that. Consider the importance of infrastructure and trees and how these may clash. And how these conflicts can be managed. Now, I don't know how well it will do this. This is getting a little bit more heady and a little bit more difficult. It wants a comma. I don't want to confuse it at all. So here we are. Let's see what it does. So we want to do this. Looks like we're getting a fairly good range of information again. We'll go.
Yeah, not too bad.
Again, it's not aimed at trying to get you perfection, but what it does is several really great things in the process. And we'll go back up and have a look at them.
That's interesting.
And so we have our references. Oh, great. One of them is made available as a thing. It needs more to continue on. So I've just said continue on citing, give me citations. So let's go back up and see what it's given us as some information. And again, be careful not just to use this as a substitute tool, but use it as a thing to help you in that planning process. So this paper, presented from the perspective of consulting arborist, delves into the complexities of managing root cutting, specifically focusing on London plains. Well, that's what we wanted to do. Urban environments often witness conflicts between preservation of trees, particularly iconic species such as London plains, and the demand for infrastructure development. Root cutting is common practice to address these conflicts, but it will require careful management to ensure the health of the tree and the integrity of the infrastructure. Seems like it's fair at the moment. They're renowned for their ability to deal with pollution, and we've got a reference for that in NOIC. These trees hold cultural and historical significance, often serving as iconic elements in the city landscapes. Their large, distinctive leaves and exfoliating bark add to the visual diversity of urban areas. Gilman and Gary Watson. The critical role in urban development infrastructure is important, so completely out of our field of expertise. So again, I would never even had any hope. So now I want to go find Levy and Luft and have a read. It may be useful for me to read that actual paper. Then some challenges of urbanisation. As urban areas expand, the clash between trees and infrastructure becomes inevitable. Root-related issues such as pavement lifting and damage to underground utilities pose challenges to coexistence of trees and critical urban infrastructure. Richard Howe. Then we have root-related infrastructure damage, again, Gilman and Watson. And when Watson and Heimlich, that's an early reference. There we are, trees and tree health implications. Root zone assessment, what you need to assess. So again, it's not a perfect thing, but it's giving you some information to start off with. The likelihood that you'd have got all of that first lot without spending hours just looking through paper. And I know, Peter, you and I have gone through this process on occasions, haven't we? I don't know whether Peter's still there.
Yeah, that's right. It does take a lot of time to trawl through stuff that, you spend a lot of time looking at stuff that doesn't really work to find the gems. So, yeah, a research assistant like this is very useful.
Yeah, it's taken out probably, it's probably halved your research time down. And so that's something that is very useful. Did someone just hand up on that then?
Martin did, I think.
Yeah, hi. My note is to this all is that the ChatGPT has not a real-time capabilities. So it contains the freshest information from January 22. So if there is any fresher research, it doesn't cover this.
Yes.
Hi, good morning.
Yeah, I'm absolutely correct. And as I said, it's still in that earlier stage of not being able to figure out truth and facts as objectively as it should. It will do, and it's learning. So as we use it, and as it continues to do its job, it will improve the end result. So the general prediction is that by the end of 2025, ChatGPT should be able to have the IQ beyond any human being. Now, that doesn't mean, again, that it's infallible. It just means that it's got a lot of ability to think things through in the terms that we talk about thinking. It's doing it in terms of bytes and an algorithm that's learning as it goes. But that's no different than what we do as human beings with our synapse, with our brain cells. So I think it's a pretty neat way to at least gather together information. And you're absolutely right, Martin. It's not going to pick stuff up for the last 2 years. Now, I will say, to ISA's credit, ISA now the journal is free to public domain day one. And I think that's just amazing that they've done that. They used to have a 12-month hold. It's now there straight away. Most journals don't have their material made freely available still. And there's a big issue and a big push with that. And I was just discussing it with an American who's visiting at the moment, American consulting arborist. The fact that the US government, for example, will pay for some research, or Martin will go out and pay for the research himself. He publishes it in a journal like a Springer journal, and Springer says, well, now we own the copyright on that. You sit there, hang on a second, if the American government or the Australian government paid for the research, how come that research is not made freely available? And how come another company like Springer, the American government doesn't get paid for it, Australian government doesn't get paid for it? Something like the CSIRO, where it's publisher and researcher, that makes sense because their earnings help fund their research. But some of these big organizations does raise some real questions. So I'll just continue on, if I might, just to the end of that section. I have to just go back and find ChatGPT for me. But notice how now we've got different examples compared with what we had earlier on. Some case studies still. This case studies process is a perfectly good way of looking at some things. Early arboricultural input, that seems to be something that's pretty good. Collaboration with urban planners, public awareness, and some conclusions. And again, you could quickly go through some of these items fairly quickly and grab some useful information. Some of them, like urban tree planting guide selection, obviously you'd have to go down to a library to grab that. Others are journal articles that if you wanted to, you can probably find. So, for example, NOAC, not going to be generally available, but if we searched that particular title, and I don't want to go back, so I'll have to unshare you and go to a new screen. Unshare, stop presenting, and then share a screen. And Peter, just so you can see whilst I'm getting it started, that's Suan Nanook. Any of you who ever get a chance to get over to Pattaya in Thailand, it's the largest privately owned botanic gardens in the world, and they have a staff of just over 1,000. Not a bad little facility. So we could look at searching, and there it is. Science Direct has a link to it. So does US Forest Services, and if US Forest Services have it, it may be publicly available. And so we can go through and just keep on checking. This one says it's PDF and it's available. There it is. So I found an actual copy of the paper. And so now I can go through, read, highlight, and say, how relevant is this? Does this fit what I need? So hopefully that's something that inspires you to look at some of the capacities of ChatGPT. I don't think it's perfect yet by any stretch of the imagination, but I think it's a great starting tool for us to gain information. I know Peter, we were looking at an issue of a particular weed and inhibition, grasses and allelopathy and tree root formation,
That's
wasn't it? So we could put that into a ChatGPT and have it write it as though we were a research scientist, and it would give us maybe 10 or 15 references rather than us going through and looking for 10 or 15 references by scrolling through hundreds of Google Scholar papers. So it's just a tool to help you narrow down. The other thing it does is it gives you some thoughts about how I might like to lay out this information, what things I might want to present. So I can try that one more time for you with ChatGPT. Let's say, write a report about treating poison trees accidentally. Trees as if you were an urban forester. Let's see what it does for us. So there we have a reasonably good thing, and we've got some suggestions. Root flushing involves the application of blood. Cannabis.
You're still sharing.
Oh, sorry.
You're still sharing the.
Thanks, Peter.
Okay.
Yeah, that doesn't help, does it? It just doesn't like me going all screens at once. It really it'll allow me to do it, but just doesn't like me doing it. So, okay, I've given it the task. Treating accidentally poisoned trees, strategies for urban foresters. And so you want to write a report about a tree that's been damaged. Was it accidentally sprayed? Was it soil contamination? Was it some form of environmental pollution that's caused the problems? What are some of the symptoms? Accurate diagnosis begins with symptoms. A visual indicator such as leaf discoloration, wilting, premature leaf drop can suggest poisoning. Additionally, changes in bark texture, crown dieback may be observed. Some stuff on soil testing, laboratory analysis, soil remediation, implement flushing remediation strategies such as flood remediation or the addition of amendments. Interestingly, they didn't put anything there about charcoal. Activated charcoal is good at trying to pick it up out of soil as well. Root flushing, fertilization and supplementation. I'm not so sure I agree with that. I'm not so sure I agree with the concept of fertilizing stressed trees. But again, it starts to give you some information straight away. Only 2 references because I haven't said, I'll just move that out of the way so you can see. If I can. Continue generating. So it got to almost the end and it still had more to go. So there we are, a nice little, again, basic starting point. And we could continue to amend that again to get more and more information. Let's do write a paper on the symptoms of herbicide damage to trees. By the way, if you're not using Grammarly and you're in that format of using Word, it's gone to AI as well now in terms of its corrections. And again, a great way of seeing things done is to have it do things. We should get it to sponsor us, I think. I love Grammarly. Okay. I didn't give it any specifications in terms of what level or giving citations, but it's figured out that that's what I want now because I've done it enough times. And so what a wonderful summary of the issues. And whilst at this stage it's still fairly new and fundamental, as I said, give it another couple of years and I think you'll find that it's doing a lot. So here are some of the symptoms: leaf chlorosis, leaf culling and distortion, necrosis and browning, stunted growth and reduced vigor, premature leaf drop. Then some of the things that influence these things, so what makes it sublethal or lethal, diagnostics and confirmation, and then some mitigation strategies. You know, again, we talk about, in particular, trying to leach out the herbicide or break down the herbicide, and then potentially selective pruning and your references again. And you think about the times that you go back and you say, well, I've got a client that I've just been out to visit. I've got this tree issue and I'm not sure with how to deal with it. Can you see how that can help? Just again, formulate, give you some information, do some of the background work. Not perfect, but remember, we're consulting arborists that aren't perfect. Martin's now thinking, yeah, he's actually as good a consulting arborist as I am because he can do this. And that's just something that does make life a little easier. So I think if you look at it as a tool to help you do your job rather than a tool to do your job, I think you'll get a lot out of it. If you look at this is a tool to do your job, you will come unstuck. You'll get caught for plagiarism. You'll write something, and then the classic. And I know I've shared this before, and I have to unshare the page, and we'll go to a presentation again. I don't know what happened. That never disappeared, but it didn't. Okay. If we look at hoop pine and reproduction. Okay, well here, female cones, 14 to 18 years, but male conelets with their pollen take 18 to 25. There's a paper that suggests that it's even younger than that. But if I go to here, and I don't think they've fixed it yet. Where are we? Somewhere there about reproduction. Oh, they've changed it. Can you believe that? Someone's finally picked it up and realized that was a mistake. They had 200 years. Let me go back up. Hoop pine reproduction, Hawaii. Thank goodness they fixed that up. University of Hawaii. What's it got now? It had University of Hawaii on its fact sheet, had the same thing, picked it up from the university, from Botanic Gardens sheet. So you can get errors like that that are really easy to introduce into your documents, and they really do cause problems for you. Can't see it there now, so it may have been corrected as well. Awesome. And this is the peer reviewing process working in terms of people as well. So when people say, hey, hang on a second, something's wrong here, we get things sorted out and we get things improved. And there's lots of errors in the internet. We all make errors. Who here hasn't made them? Apart from, yeah, I'm really good at making mistakes. Cite, to cite a document and spell it S-I-T-E. Why? Because Word doesn't pick it up. Interestingly enough, now it does get picked up by Grammarly. If you're using Grammarly, it realizes the context of the word. Cite, S-I-T-E is wrong, and C-I-T is right. Dominic, are you using or have you seen or heard about Grammarly? And Amy, hi. Same, I'd be curious to know. Vicky, are you using it at all yet?
Yes, I use it.
It's wonderful, isn't it? It's like having a writing coach sitting there saying, hey, you need to get your writing crap together. And then it goes, yeah, go on.
I've never used Grammarly. I've only ever used Microsoft Word. I do proofread anything I write. I do proofread it several times. I mean, things are still missed, I know, but I've never used Grammarly.
Okay, let me ask you a quick question. You can use Grammarly for free. You can cut and paste into it online and do quite a number of checks that way. You just get to the stage where you pretty quickly say, if I'm going to be writing for a living, $100 and something or other dollars a year is a pretty cheap investment. But I'm assuming, Dominic, you don't have a degree in journalism or English.
No.
Oh, yeah. So I keep on finding myself absolutely fascinated about what I don't know about English language rather than what I do know. So, yeah, I find it just a very useful tool. Peter doesn't do it. Peter reads through. I had a young lass give me a report.
I use a different writing program because I can't bear Word, and it doesn't work with Grammarly. But the word processor that I do use does have a pretty good spell check, so it's only the grammar that I'm missing. And what I have noticed when I have used Grammarly is that if you use it, you follow its suggestions, it does produce a particular style, and it's not the style that I would normally use. So
you're absolutely right. But let me point out that if you go to Grammarly and you look at your settings, you can set the style. Yeah. And what people do is leave the default with these things. So you can have formal, informal, technical, scientific, and so there are various styles. And in fact, Grammarly of late has been picking me up on my referencing because it wants me to use I think it's AMLA or Chicago, and I want to use Harvard, and it's not happy with me doing that at this stage. And it says it wants consistency in my referencing. It picks on it that it's not consistent enough in terms of the way I lay it out. And again, that will get smarter and smarter. What you'll end up with is eventually a checking system that acts like a professor. Amy sent us a little text. I don't know whether it saw it pop up, but she said she uses Grammarly. She uses the free version, and I think that's great. The other one that I recommended a while back, and I still recommend being worthwhile, is a piece of software called Ginger. So that's an alternate one you can use. I think its algorithm was better. I don't know where it's up to now, now that AI is playing the game. But these bits of software, again, just getting smarter and smarter. They read through thousands of books and then start to question what's right and wrong. And then they read through English grammar textbooks and start to figure things out. So, and then the other thing is you get peculiarities. So Australia, for example, our style manual, and there's a style manual for writing in Australia, has things like the Oxford comma's gone, and I can't handle that. The Oxford comma's still there. So again, as Peter says, you'll develop your own style, and you should feel free when you're using Grammarly to use it as a suggestion point, not as the absolute. Martin says Grammarly Premium is free for NGOs, and I lost the last bit of that, so I'll just have to look at the note. Where the hell are my notes? Do you know where the notes are put, Peter?
While you're looking, I did read a lot of it. It said you get 10 accounts.
For an NGO. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm commercial, so I don't know whether that comes under an NGO or not. But I pay for my Grammarly, and I'm happy to pay for a company to make money to develop good stuff, I guess. Do you know where the chat section is in this one, Peter?
I can see it down in the bottom right-hand corner, and it's like a little window with lines in it.
Oh, yes, I see it. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, Martin says establish yourself as an NGO. And in fact, those of you who have come across Valid, it's a great little app-based way of doing tree risk assessment. David Evans has actually done that. He set himself up as a not-for-profit organisation. Of course, he draws a salary out of that, and he does his bit. But be careful if you do that in Australia to make sure you're complying with Australian tax law. Yes, establish an NGO, be a non-profit organisation and non-government organisation, and great way to go. And yeah, you know, having said that, I think I might be wrong, but for most of us, spending $150 a year on report writing tools is minimal compared with other things that we spend. So our computers, your software you're using to write with, and particularly if you're using a Microsoft platform or a Apple platform, either way, you're paying the two big companies, computer companies, a lot of money for using their software every year. I think, you know, nowadays Microsoft wants to continually rent their software to you rather than sell it to you. So you pay, I don't know what it is, no idea. Not my field of work, but I know we pay them. So yeah, there's just, again, looking at using and utilizing artificial intelligence to help you get started. It's not going to do the research, so there's nothing better still than going to Google Scholar and doing some research. But if you go to Google Scholar and you're feeling overwhelmed by it, you've got a tree problem, Ceridium. Let me just go over it again. I'll share a screen. ChatGPT. Someone might check my spelling. How do I treat Ceridium? Is that the correct spelling for Ceridium? No. No, it's not. Let me check. Oh boy, it's scary when I spell something right, Peter. Must have made a mistake. How to treat Ceridium in Cypress Pines. Really basic, you know. Can it actually do anything on that? I don't know. Oh, there we are. Look at that. Consult with the arborist. Oh, that's great. I am sharing that screen with you, am I?
Yep.
Yeah, but
Yeah, we can see it.
it's given you some really good things. 10% bleach, 30% rubbing alcohol is what I suggest. Rubbing alcohol is isopropyl, and I suggest rubbing alcohol as opposed to methylated spirits, because methylated spirits is contaminated with a horrible smelling vial material, to stop people from drinking it. And so it just, isoprols just smells so much nicer. And that's what's usually in your hand gels. You can make up your own hand gels, just aloe vera, 30%, isopropyl, 70%. We were doing it during COVID in the earlier stages. So yes, there's some things. And again, you could take that same concept. So how do I treat ceridium? Control V, right directions as a plant pathologist. Physiologist on how to treat ceridium in cypress pines, include, oops, what have we done there? Include references.
I looked up the correct spelling for ceridium. It's S-E-I-R.
S-E-I-R.
Yeah, hit an I as always.
S-E-I-R-I-D-I-U-M.
Yep, yeah, everything's right except the missing I.
Yeah, I'll just put that in. So let's see how it goes. So it's looking at now in a little bit more detail. And now we get a lot more information, a lot more references, a lot more support. And the two differences that we made there is we said, let's write this as if we're somebody who knows more. And so what AI does is it assumes the identity of that person in terms of the way it thinks and communicates. So here we now have a plant pathologist telling us this information. How's that?
Excellent.
So when you get back to the office and you're thinking, how do I do it? Now, the only thing I've never been able to figure out is our herbicide, our pesticide act in Australia is horrendous. And things are always changing, coming off label, predominantly more so than coming on label. So every time I come up with a treatment, for example, for Phytophthora, I said, okay, next time I've got a Phytophthora problem, I'll use the same thing. And I go to check the labels and the labels have changed again. So that's a bit of a pain in the neck, but it's what you've got to accept. So if you're looking at specific chemicals, you do need to make sure that they're correct. And you need to also make sure that the application is appropriate. So, you know, for example, PlantVax for the control of rust in plumeria rust was approved for the process, but you had to be a commercial applicator. So there's no point trying to tell a householder to go and spray with PlantVax. You need to give them the right information. So you still will spend time doing things, but at least it's helped you through that process. If we go back to that paper.
Are they both about $20 a month? Are they subscriptions? Is that what you're saying? Grammarly and ChatGPT?
ChatGPT is very expensive. It's free.
Okay.
And there is a free version of Grammarly you can use. You just need to cut and paste your document in and let it go through it. The full commercial version of Grammarly, and I'm going to go on memory, I think it's about $130 or $140 Australian, something like that. So that's about what, $10 or $12 a month. And it does wonderful things for me. It tells me about where I'm going wrong all the time, gives me suggestions. And certainly since it's gone AI, its capacity to tweak a sentence or tweak a paragraph is pretty good. Let's just try it and I'll show you. Let me open up a Word document. Word, a blank document. I'll share this with you in a second. I'm just going to take that
Does Grammarly suggest synonyms within the context of your writing?
It can do, yeah.
With
That would
double
be,
click,
that would be useful.
at least in the web application. I don't know if this in Word.
So if I share a Word page with you now, and I can do that, share Word window, Word document. So, okay, obviously the layout's awful because I've just cut and pasted the thing in. The risk associated with accidental tree failure, it's the first one that we looked at tonight. And I open Grammarly. And because Grammarly is using AI, it might be happy with a lot of things, but okay, it's already recognized that that's an American spelling and I'm Australia, so there's analyze. It doesn't like this sentence. It's fragmented, okay? Accidental failure with a now and wants me to update all of those, everything to Australian. So there's everything done to Australian. I don't know, accidental tree failure. Let's see if I can change that around. So that's really what it wanted to do. One of the two major clauses put together and then the variables moved to one side. So accidental failure can result in severe consequences, whether due to natural factors, structural weakness, or inadequate management. And I could rewrite that again. If I want to rewrite that just as a thing, I could go to cut that, put that straight into ChatGPT and say, please rewrite this sentence in a more grammatically correct manner, or give me 4 variations for this sentence, and it will do all of that. Unfortunately, because it's artificially written, ChatGPT has got all those spelled correctly or done correctly. So let me open up a report that won't be quite so see if that does it. No. But yes, look, when you're typing, it gives you suggestions and ideas. I'm just trying to find a document I can give you some more. It's got more issues and problems with it.
Yeah, too good, Mark.
No, well, this has come from ChatGPT, so it's already corrected it. No, my stuff will have mistakes in it. Okay, so here's no, that won't help either. I've got a completed document that'll allow me to just bring it across. Okay, yep. Okay, here's one. Nice, simple one. I have to share and then reshare. I apologize. And share, and now it's Windows, Word, and what? Okay. Turn on proofing. Grammarly is going to go through it. No issues found, but it has found some. But yeah, it's already been through Grammarly, so I wouldn't expect it to have too many. I can't find you one where it's going to do the job. Just giving us some suggestions here. Try using a verb instead of a noun phrase.
Maybe you should use one of mine, Mark. That should have plenty of areas.
Well, it's funny you say that, Peter, but it probably does. In fact, that's a great idea. Let me open one up if it's still there. No, I've finalized that one out too. No, I can't pull one up immediately. I thought I was going to be able to. But yeah, it's just this process of constantly working out. And here, it's given a suggestion that I think is a word suggestion, not a Grammarly suggestion. But it says, if they are the owner of the property, they may not have considered the potential risk associated with trees and the need to take action. Well, a simpler version, the need to act before that risk reaches a level that is no longer acceptable. And I've added precision, used less words. And so that was one of the suggestions that it had. And it's saying again here, simplify it out, doesn't need the author, and resolve. And so there we are, it's finished. I apologize, there's just not a lot there. But in the process of writing, I'm constantly, and it'll be interesting to hear what Vicky says, but I'm writing, if I've got Grammarly on the side going on, I'll often sit there and look at my sentence and say, oh, I need to relook at that sentence and redo it. If I'm doing it in Word, it'll do the same thing. And then when I go back in Grammarly, I again rewrite and restructure. And in a really important document, so I've got a legal one that I'm going on with at the moment. I can't share it with you because the case is not run yet. But once the case run, I'm happy to share or pick out an older one. You know, I did a legal report for a court case about 4 years ago that I guess we edited maybe 15 times, rechanged sentence structure, rechanged paragraphs, looked at it and said, how well is it communicating? Is it communicating clearly? Is there confusion? Have I given the assumptions? Have I given the rationale and the logic? You know, and it takes time to write a really good report. And it takes pulling it apart, dismantling it. Amy, you said you review a number of times, and that's a really great way. But what you've got to do is you've got to have time in between. I was just talking to a young student who's going over to New Zealand to study marine biology, and I was saying to her that there's no good trying to finish an assignment the day before it's due in. If you're going to write a good assignment, you need to finish it 3 weeks before it's due in, because you need 3 or 4 days break before you review it the first time, 3 or 4 breaks before you review it the second time, and then probably a week to rewrite. Because when you look at it the third time, you'll start to want to rewrite lots of sections of it. And that is the nature. If we're doing something that's really important, we want to communicate very clearly, we need to take that time to do that. And that's difficult because we're often also trying to do things fairly cheaply and cost effectively. Dominic, I see your hand there. I'll have a look at your message. Talk, hang on. Yep, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I haven't sent a message through, but I was going to ask, just when you were saying how allow a couple of weeks between finishing the first quote unquote finished version and the due date, just on that, how, I guess, on average, what time frame do you have to write a report as an expert witness?
Oh, look, and that's a great question. I have been given as long as 1 week. Actually, I was given one up near Peter's End of the World was a Thursday afternoon and had to be in it on the Tuesday. And that was a nightmare because I had to drive for 9 hours just to do it. And I dare think how much caffeine I consumed. But here's the deal when you start to do this stuff on that shorter time frame. You cannot edit your own work. You really need to find yourself another arborist that you're happy with that you can say, could you read and look through this? In-house here, so once I've finished doing it, I have a young lady who's studying forensic science. She edits the document. Then it comes back to me with please explains all over it. And, you know, the obvious mistakes she picks up. But because she's not an arborist, it's great from my side because I have to communicate the arboricultural issues clearly. Otherwise, I get more please explains. Please explain, she simply does by highlighting yellow. If I don't understand what the issue is, I'll chin wag. But quite often I look at it and think, oh, yeah, okay, I see that straight away. And it's just getting that alternate set of eyes. So the shorter your time frame, the more you need to rely on somebody else to edit that document.
Okay,
And-
that's good to know.
And it's important if it's if I'm writing a general site inspection report for a development site and I've been past and had a look, it just needs to make sure that it's grammatically correct and clear. So you do that yourself. I still have it all of them done. Every report, I don't ever send out a report unless a third party has edited. And that's just because we can do it, and it stops me from the thing that happens. I'm typing away, the phone rings, I answer the phone to somebody, and the next thing is I'm back and writing in the wrong section, and the sentence is jumbled and I don't pick it up. Or I don't pick up that I've written SITE instead of CITE, or that I've left an arrow out of the caption or of the photograph, and the caption refers to it. Those sort of things. They're things that are really easy to do when you're distracted.
Yep.
So
Just to finish on that, when you have had, I guess, inadequate time or less than ideal time to write a report, whether it's for a legal process or not, is that taken into account that you have not had as much time as you'd otherwise deem fit?
it depends on by whom and when. First of all, remember that most lawyers and judges were lawyers or barristers, which are lawyers still all the same at one stage. Most of them are really good at English language, because the English language is the tool that they work with. So most of them pull their hair and want to go and hide when they read arborist reports, mine included. The goal is to get past that. So yes, they will. But if you're a small practice and you're wanting to do it, there are online people that will do that service for you. Will go through and read. I know Grammarly used to have a facility that did it, and it was quite expensive. But there are, lots of low-cost options where you can find an English graduate, somebody maybe with a master's or a PhD in English or English literature or journalism out of an English-speaking country, or that have learned English, that can go through and do it. I mean, Martin, I don't know what it's like, but my experience was when I was in the Czech Republic, a lot of the courses were done in English. Is that still the case? Do you know? Are your mics off?
Could you repeat what I didn't understand exactly?
So when I went to class in the Czech Republic, most of the professors communicated in English.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So a lot of the education was in English.
It depends. There are some professors even in Brno right now, native English speakers.
Yeah.
The thing is that we have words which basically English doesn't know.
Yes.
I'm just
translating.
I'm just translating my patent. It has 150 pages. It's related to arboriculture, and it's kind of disaster. I have to say.
Yeah. So, and again, Martin, I will say the same thing to you: is make sure that you get a second translator to check through and review the document, because we lose things in language. It's really difficult. And there are online people that I just can't think of one of the services, but there are half a dozen of them out there where you can pick up a person to do that sort of work at $10 to $12 an hour with a PhD. And it's because in Australia, our wage structure is so much higher. Well, you think about it, if you're billing out your consultant, I don't know, Dominic, what you might be, let's say you're doing it at $198 an hour, including GST, $180 plus $18 GST, then having a person read it for an hour, paying them $40 even, and being able to bill that out at $180, that's still not a bad learner to do a better job. So if you've got the time, that would be my answer, is always have somebody else have a look at it. And I've got groups of friends that I call upon to do that. Every now and again I think, I need another arborist to have a look at this from a technical side as well. And it's important that you do that. Otherwise, yes, I have written some horror documents. If you want a classic one, go find the report that I wrote for Save Our Figs at Layman Street. And, it's a poorly written, emotive document. I'll tell you that. And don't fear failure. Do not fear failure. Fear not learning. Failure is a wonderful way to learn. When we were kids, we fell over, our parents applauded and said hooray. Sometime between that time when we were learning to walk and the time we got to high school, the education system had so badly screwed up all of our minds that we have this horrible thing that failure is wrong. And yet failure is how we learn so readily. And you've all heard the story of the young poor boy that got thrown out of school at 7, got fired from multiple jobs, just couldn't do things right. He kept on playing around with electricity through filaments and came up with a thing called the light globe and started a company, I think today, called General Electric. It's nothing important. Thomas Edison. So, failure is not the end of the world. It's how you treat it that's the end of the world. So expect at some stage or other that a client's going to be unhappy, someone's going to complain, a judge is going to ridicule you. If that's not happening, you're not out there in the arena trying. You're just not getting yourself and putting yourself on the line. Do not fear that. Do not fear the teacher that gives you a not yet competent or red marks all over. I think I've shared before when I was at University of Melbourne, Nick Collett, entomologist, gave me an 80 out of 100 on an assignment that I thought was just brilliant. And he wrote wonderful glowing comments, and I had called him and said, Nick, I'm devastated. 80's just at the high distinction mark. What am I going to do? What have I got to do? I thought I'd really nailed it. And he said, have you ever read your crap? It's so hard and awkward to read. Simplify your sentences. I said, Nick, English and spelling were 5 marks. He said, yes. And I've taken 20 marks off for it. And I hope that teaches you the lesson you need. And to this day, one of the things that I still constantly do is say, can I shorten this sentence? Can I remove the conjunction? Does it need to be there? And, Nick was absolutely right. My writing style's horrible. If you want someone that writes nicely, someone like Catriona McKenzie writes nice English, very simply communicated. If you want horrible, there are arborists out there that use big words that make themselves sound very photosynthesis. And it's just appalling when you read a report by somebody using words that they don't understand, using concepts they don't understand, communicating as though they're really super sophisticated. It is vile. So avoid that at all cost. Remember, the purpose of a report is to communicate. And remember that most people would never want to read your reports. I have to say, 3/4 of the reports that I write never get read from cover to cover. So the goal is to try and communicate quickly, communicate succinctly and simply. So there's lots of stuff in your reports that should be at the end in an appendix or somewhere else. The real critical stuff should be in those first few paragraphs of those first few pages. Happy with that?
Yep. Thank you.
And if you can do that, then you've mastered it beyond me. I'm still learning that process. It is not easy. Guys, thanks for being here tonight. We'll see you in a month's time.